So once we've assigned the threat actor or the threat vector, should I say, we want to then assign the owner. So we want owners for the risks, so the owners can essentially become responsible for those, and we're making people accountable. So the way we've kind of done that is we've essentially mapped out our entire org chart into Jira. So we've got the top level role, which is obviously the CEO, and we've mapped out all the roles that are underneath him. And what that's allowed us to do is to basically map each risk to a particular owner. So we'd have a business owner, a technical owner, and a stakeholder in some cases. But what that does is it allows people to sort of be accountable for those risks. Without that, they kind of get lost in limbo, and no one's really doing anything about them because they're not aware that they're the owner. So again, each of these yellow tickets is an item on Jira. So we've got roles in Jira, and each of them create different business titles. And this is what Chris, it looks like. Go on.
Sorry, Chris, can I interrupt? Just on the previous one, I want to say here, we map the roles, and roles are people can be assigned to roles. So basically, so if someone leaves, it's not a big problem because everything is mapped to their role. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, the people slot into the roles, right? So the role will always stay the same, but the people may change.
Yeah.
And what that looks like in practice, you can't see it very well, but that's intentional because it's got some sensitive data on there. But we've essentially mapped out the CPO, and we're wanting to show all the high-level risks that the CPO has. So if someone coming into the business and there's an open position, we could go onto Jira, we could map out that role, and we could show that new person all of the risks that are associated to that role. And we can do that via Jira. So that's kind of what it looks like in a graph format. But then the new thing that we've developed is the chart. So we can now start to see different roles and the risks that are associated to those roles. So the one at the top is CTO. So this is Mr. Cruz. And I've anonymized all of this, so you can't really see what products they are, but you get the idea. So, product one, we've rated it as high. And the reasons are we've got these different risks involved, and that's the same for every product. So now a product owner or a business owner can go and look at their risks, and they can clearly see what the highest risks are associated to their role. We've also done the same for the CPO, so Chief Product Officer. So now people are made accountable for the risks that are associated to them.
And now it's important here to understand that this is actually a graph from Jira data. What you actually have at the top is the parent, ticket that then links. So basically, the column titles, product one, product two, product three, they are the parent Jira issues, basically nodes of then the Kubernetes risk assessment, risk management, etc. So you can see that. This is the same, basically, you manage this data through Jira, through the graphs that you saw in the other way, but this is a much more easy to understand and easy to digest, visualization that allows the business to now consume this data without even caring if this is in Jira or not.
Exactly, and we use Jupyter, right? We should have maybe gave a little demo on how that works, but essentially you just put in the title, say is created by or has owner or whatever, and that will then spit out this chart you're seeing here. So it's
so actually technically speaking, the way it works is all that data from Jira is pumped into Elastic using a Lambda function. So every time you make a change in Jira, ends up on an Elastic index, which makes querying much easier. Which, by the way, querying Jira is a pain, right? So don't query Jira, right? Because Jira is super slow. Pump the data from Jira into Elastic, and then you query there. And what's happening here is you actually have a Lambda function that then you can say, give me this particular graph, or start here and view this. That Lambda function actually opens up a local web browser, who then opens up that view, this is actually an HTML table that you then take a screenshot, and you send that screenshot, you return that screenshot as a base 64 string. And what Chris was mentioning is that you can consume that, for example, from a Jupyter notebook, and Jupyter Notebook simply calls the Lambda function and then renders the image in a notebook, which is how they took the screenshot here. I think we need a diagram for this, man, to explain the flow. But that's technically how this is possible. You could also do it with the Slack bots.
Also, I wanted to add, like, for example, this CTO and CPO dashboards are actually, cherry-picked dashboards, which, with an issue called top-level risks, because we wanted to show each role what their top-level risks are, and that's why they're all kind of red and orange. And it doesn't mean that, for example, vulnerability management, that the CTO needs to start suddenly sweating because the vulnerability management is atrocious. It just means that out of all the risks in the engineering world, these are kind of the ones that he should pay the most attention to. But it doesn't mean that the level itself of the vulnerability management is terrible. It just means comparing to some other risks, it's higher. So this is where we deviated from the risk matrix.
Yeah, this is very important, because when you look at the strategy, right, the strategy of a security team should be connected to the items that they're acting or working on, and the items that they're working on should be connected to the highest things that you have. So if you start, you're going to have insanely high risks, and you should be addressing that. But as you eliminate those high risks, what you're doing is you're gaining almost granularity. So what before was a medium risk basically now becomes a high risk, because you got rid of all your basically critical or stuff that was really on fire. So basically what Petra was describing is very important, that this has been normalized by the highest of what you've got there. In a way, you almost can measure the maturity or the place where a security team is by how bad is the one here, right? Like if you look at the highest here, if you look at how bad that is, you can almost tell the level of fighting or like firefighting that you're doing, or the level of, are you dealing with now still very technical emergency things that are super bad, or are you now thinking a lot more technical, a lot more, like for example, some of the Kubernetes risks that we're dealing now with, we're now dealing it at a systemic level. See the presentation that Petra and the team did yesterday, right? And I was writing, basically, we now are dealing with the risks in a much more holistic, across the board, strategic way, but comparatively, it's still one of the areas that we're putting a lot of effort because we want to get better. But it's very important that this is normalized by what is worse at today, not the level, because you want to have some shades, right? You don't want everything to be red. So, you don't want everything to be orange, right? You want to make sure that you look at, for example, these reds, and you should be able to completely align it with the current security strategy, with the current security project, where what the team is working on should now be reflected in here.
Yeah, it also depends on the risk appetite. For example, we decided that we want to, with our Kubernetes risks, that we want to get it 100% right. So we're still going to keep it red there. Well, if you think about it, how much we've done for our Kubernetes security, it's like there's a lot of security in depth there, and we are very happy with the current situation. But just because we want to be perfect in this scenario, for us, this is going to be red, while for some other teams, this actually might be green, and they might need to worry about, cloud security more, or, other things.
And I just want to add as well that, if what we have on the screen is, let's say, accepted by the CTO, that means any security work which is not focused on the high risks we are seeing here, that means that we are not doing the right thing. So basically, so this will help as well, security focus as well for the team.
Exactly. Yeah.